You know what? I really didn't want to make this video because it's a video I didn't think I would need to make in 2024. But I'm making this video anyway. And I've been sitting on this article for a couple of days now. I've just been sitting on it, reflecting on what I had read. And I had to read it a few times just to make sure that I understand exactly what is being said, that I didn't get anything wrong and so forth. I had to read it a few times just to understand. And most of you would have read the article by now anyway, and I'm sure people have been discussing it as well. But I just thought, you know what, let me come up here and give my 2 cents, because this video is a reaction. It's purely my opinion. And quite frankly, I'm a little bit disappointed. I have to be honest. I'm a little bit disappointed. That's why it took me a while to make this video. I had to process my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions, because as I said, I couldn't believe what I was reading. And obviously, you can see it on the screen. I'm talking about the article which says, "Welcome to Little England, a street name split city neighborhood." It's about a neighborhood in Westgate, Area D in Harare. You know, it's got beautiful houses, according to this article. Now, the fracas or the argument broke out when it came to the naming of the streets in that area. Because according to the article, for a while, the streets didn't have names. So the community had to come together and decide what names to give to their streets. So when it came to the decision, there was a split among the people. Some wanted English names only, and some preferred Shona and Ndebele, or they suggested that we should also incorporate Shona and Ndebele names as a representation of the culture, you know, our culture as Zimbabweans. So that's why they felt that it was also important to have those names. And according to the article, that suggestion of incorporating Shona and Ndebele names as well was rejected by the majority. It was rejected outright. Now, I don't care what you name your streets. I don't. That's not why I decided to make this video. The reason I'm making this video, or the reason I am bothered by this article or by what happened with this community, is what was said about the Shona names and the Ndebele names. It was the reasoning behind it. It was the thought process. Now, I'm going to read some of the statements so that you can understand where I'm coming from with this. And of course, I'm going to give my opinion. I'm going to state exactly why I'm disturbed by this. So this is what was said, and I quote, "Some said if they give the local names or Shona names, it will reduce the value of the suburb. So having a Shona name or a Ndebele name, according to this person, reduces the value of that place. For example," and I'm still quoting, "for example, having a street name like Mupuranga, they felt it can reduce the value of the place just like a high-density area." And of course, because it was done democratically, people were asked to vote, the minority lost because the majority felt that they should do away with Shona and Ndebele names altogether. Now, as I said already, I don't really care the names that you give to your streets. I mean, I have an English name myself. So that is not the issue here. The issue here is the mentality, the thought process, or the thinking behind it, the argument itself. That is what I've got a problem with. For us Black people, Zimbabweans, African people, for us to say that our culture, our language, our identity degrade us as Zimbabweans, as African people, for us to say that, for us to even say it out loud, for me, it shows that there is a serious problem. There is a serious problem. Because what is so degrading about having a Shona name? What is so wrong? What is so degrading about having a Ndebele name? What is so degrading about that? What is so degrading about your own culture? What is so degrading about your own language? What is degrading about that? What is demeaning? Why would you lose value simply because you've given the street you live in a Shona name or a Ndebele name? Where is that thinking coming from? That is what I want people to explain to me. Because the person talked about Mbare or what happens in high-density suburbs. Yes, we know that high-density areas, some high-density areas, or Mbare, those are poor areas. We know that. But that doesn't mean that having Shona names also means that you are degraded or that you are poor. Should we equate our language, our culture, our identity to status? How is you being a Zimbabwean, being a Shona person or a Ndebele person degrading? How is that degrading? Make it make sense. In the UK, we've got affluent areas, we've got poor areas. But guess what? Their streets still represent their culture. They still represent the British culture, the British identity. So what is so wrong with us embracing our own identity? Why do we hate ourselves so much? In 2024, in the 21st century, why as Zimbabweans, why as Africans, Why are we still looking down on ourselves? Why are we still thinking that way? I don't get it. I don't get it. Someone please explain it to me. Make it make sense, because I don't understand. I don't understand. Because I remember I posted a video a few months ago talking about our Zimbabwean culture, our cultural concepts, customs and traditions. And in that video, I mentioned the issue of mutupo. As Zimbabweans, we have our mutupo. And in that video as well, I talked about the importance of the extended family. That is our culture. And also in that video, I talked about how we are taught or we are raised to respect our elders. That is part of our culture. And also in that video, I talked about Roora is part of our culture. And then one person came in the comment section saying that, oh, that is demonic. How is that demonic? How is our culture demonic? How is us being raised to respect our elders? How is us having mutupos or having Roora ceremonies? How is that demonic? How is our language demonic? Because it is part of our culture. How is that demonic? What is so wrong and degrading about our own languages, about our own culture, about our own identity? Because as a parent, I see it as my duty to lead by example. I see it as my duty to pass down to my kids, to pass down my values, my beliefs, and so forth, and to teach my kids my culture. As a mother, it is my duty, my responsibility to pass down to my kids. So if I'm telling my kids, if I can stand up and say that having a Shona name or having a Ndebele name or naming my street or giving my street a Shona name, a Ndebele name degrades you, if I can say that out loud, what kind of example am I setting for my children? What am I saying to my children? What am I teaching them? And mind you, it's not about the English names themselves. That's not what this is about. I don't really mind what we call our streets. I don't really mind. But for people to stand up and give that reason, to make that an argument, to say that our culture, our identity is degrading or makes us lose value or makes an area lose its value. For me, I don't get that. In 2024, I don't get where that is coming from. I'm sorry. This is just my opinion and I feel passionate about this. Clearly, you can see I feel passionate about this. And unfortunately, this is how we think as Black people, as Zimbabweans, as Africans. Unfortunately, we still think like that in 2024. We still see ourselves as low value. To me, that's the interpretation of this. What I've read, that's how I interpret it. If I've got it wrong, then I need someone to put me straight. I need someone to tell me that I got it wrong. That's not what it means. To me, that's the interpretation of this. What I've read, that's how I interpret it. If I've got it wrong, then I need someone to put me straight. I need someone to tell me that I got it wrong. That's not what it means. For someone to stand up and say that if you call your name Mupuranga, that's low value.